How to change your oil on a 2011 Toyota Highlander. The 3.5 liter 2GR FE engine requires 6.4 quarts of oil. So I got these 5-quart bottles for about $22 at Walmart. And I also got this genuine Toyota filter from Walmart for about $7. And the number is 04152YZZA1. The 4-cylinder version only requires 4.6 quarts, so you'll only need one of these bottles. And the oil filter number is different, so make sure you get the right one for that. Step 1 is to check your oil level before you drain the oil, just to make sure your car is not burning or leaking any oil. It is just good to be informed on that. And this car is okay. Step 2 is just taking off the oil cap, and we're gonna leave it right over here so we don't forget to add oil and we don't close the hood and run this engine without oil. Step 3, we're just gonna keep this popped up just for better airflow. Step 4 is safely jacking up the vehicle. Always make sure you're on level ground. Use wheel chocks and jack stands. To access the jacking point, we must remove this cover with two 10mm bolts. The cover comes off and your jacking point is accessible right over here now. Once your car is secured by jack stands, you come under it and you want to find the 14mm oil drain bolt, which is located right there. You can put your pan under there, grab your 14mm ratchet or wrench or whatever you want to use, spin left, crack it loose, and start draining your oil. Right now, you can, if you see the gasket still in the oil pan, it's okay if it stays there as long as it stays there throughout the whole process. You just want to make sure you don't lose that gasket. And then put your drain bolt in a safe spot. I'm just gonna put it right next to the pan. To access the oil filter, we'll have to remove these two 10mm bolts. Toyota has two special oil filter tools. This is the smaller one that's meant for 4 cylinders. This is the larger one, which we'll be using on this car for 6 cylinders. There's two ways to use this tool. One, you could stick a 3/8 ratchet or extension with the ratchet on here, or you can grab a 27mm socket with a 1/2-inch drive if you want to put a breaker bar on there, whichever way you would prefer. This right here is just the drain that Toyota provides you with. You could put a 3/8 extension and ratchet on there, break it loose. It'll help release some oil. There's also an O-ring that comes with the oil filter. So when you remove that, you can replace the O-ring, put it back on. I personally don't like messing with that. I just like taking the whole housing off by itself, putting it back on, not even touching that. It is up to you what you want to do with that, but just wanted to put that out there. You have the notches on your oil filter housing, and you got the notches on your tool. So just make sure to line those up. As so, and you're ready to remove. Change the filter. It's pretty simple. Once we have this off, just grab the filter, pull up, empty this out. Then you have your O-ring that you must replace every time you do this oil change. If you follow the housing around, you'll find a little slot right here. Just take some kind of pick or a little mini screwdriver, put it under, pry up, and remove as so. Put the new O-ring on. Take some oil. I like using fresh oil, but for now I'm just going to use some of this. Just lubricate this O-ring so the next time you want to take this oil filter housing off, it'll come off easily. Okay, so I'm just going to slide this on, follow it around. I've seen this before. Please make sure not to do that. Make sure it goes in on the actual seal. I've also seen it before where this was all the way down over here. That is incorrect. Somehow that's sealed. I don't know how that happened, but make sure it's right over there. It's all lubricated. Grab your new filter, push that down all the way, and we are done. As I mentioned before, you can remove this and replace that, but I usually tend to leave it alone. When putting this back on, we want to make sure to torque it to 25 plus or minus 5 Newton meters, which is about 18 to 20 foot-pounds of torque. I usually don't use a torque wrench. I usually just snug it up, but if you want to be precise with it, torque it down. We're gonna start off by hand, get as tight as you can with your hand, then we'll use the ratchet to snug it up. So, just wanna make it snug, and we're good. Right, I got my drain bolt. I took the gasket off, or the washer gasket off the oil pan to inspect it. I like these soft type washers, washer gaskets, so this one looks like it's in good shape, so I'm going to reuse it. However, if yours is not in good shape, obviously replace it. Make sure to wipe down your threads so they're clean. You don't want any junk going on there. And then you're going to hand tighten this drain bolt. The torque spec for the drain bolt is between 25 and 30 foot-pounds. The Toyota dealership usually uses around 27 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, I'm going to show you what I teach all my students. And pretty much what it is once it gets to a snug level, you take 3 fingers. So you're going to hold the ratchet in the back, take 3 fingers and make it as tight as possible that you can with 3 fingers. And that will be about 27 to 30 foot-pounds. All right. If you grab it with your whole hand, you might over torque it. So 3 fingers, make it as tight as possible, and you are done. We're going to slide this cover back on. Move your jack stands, call it clear, and bring your car down. And don't forget to put this cover back on underneath the vehicle. It's time to add our oil. It's gonna be one full one of these. I got approximately 1.4 quarts labeled on here. You grab a clean funnel, start filling her up. All right, that's close enough. So I'd rather be a little bit underfull and add some than be overfilled and having to go back down and drain it. Once we get that, we're gonna now cap. And we're gonna check our level before starting the vehicle. So we're gonna stick in, wipe. And we are a little bit over full, which is completely fine because once we start the vehicle, it's gonna drain some. So let's go ahead and start the car and check it out again. While starting the car, you want someone to check underneath the car to make sure that when the car is started, there's no oil leaking out in case you forgot to tighten something or you forgot a gasket. So I'm gonna send my cameraman to go under the car while I start the car.
Clear.
We'll let the car run for about 10 to 30 seconds. And then we're gonna let it sit for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then we're gonna check the level. Now it's time to check the oil for the last and final time. It's really clean oil, so it's hard to see, but I can tell it's on the top dot, which is perfect amount of level. Now the distance between the bottom and the top is 1 quart, so if you're halfway down, you just have to add a half a quart and etc. To reset the maintenance light is pretty easy. Put the ignition on and make sure you're on trip A. You turn it off, and your odometer reset button, you want to hold that down, then turn the key back to on. You'll see those little dots slowly go down. Once it does the 0 flash twice, your maintenance light is reset. So when I start the car, you will see that there's no more maintenance required light on that I was on before. Toyota recommends an oil change every 5,000 miles, so that maintenance light should come around at about 5,000 miles more. If not, you could create your own oil change sticker and put that up there for 5,000 miles after, or 5 months. These Highlanders are notorious for getting dirty under the engine bay. So while we're doing this oil change, we're gonna go ahead and clean up inside here, clean up the battery, and we're gonna check the air filter as well. Just nice little things to do while you're doing your oil change, checking your fluids, making sure everything is good. Check the air filter, remove or loosen up 2 10mm bolts. one on each side.
We're gonna
Remove these vacuum lines right over here so they don't break, because they commonly break. Those two. And then we're gonna lift up on this box, pull forward, and sneak the air filter out. To check your air filter, you put it up to light. If you can see light through it, it's good. There's some parts where you can't see the light through. You could probably go another oil change from this filter. We have a new filter, so we're probably just gonna pop the new filter on. Just so you have an idea between old filter versus new filter. You can see much more light coming to the new filter. To pop this one back in place, all these three corners are the same minus one that has a square corner. That square corner is going to be right over here, closest to the battery. So just make sure that square corner is facing you. Slide the filter on. Slide the filter in there. Make sure it's seated well. There you go. These two hinges will tuck back under, like something got, there you go. Those two hinges will get tucked back under. We could put our hoses back on and tighten back up our 10mm. One and two, and now we are snug. If you look over here, that's why I always say try to remove them, because every time you take the air filter off, one of these hoses finds its way loose and then it doesn't check engine light. So make sure everything's connected. That's good. To clean the battery, we're going to be using some CRC battery cleaner with accident indicator. This battery is only about 1.5 years old. But for some reason, these Highlanders, again, let's get really dirty down here. Gonna spray that, let that sit for a few minutes. We're also gonna spray some engine degreaser around the engine bay just to clean it up a little bit, because it is pretty dirty down here. I don't know why these Highlanders get so dirty down here. And then let that stuff sink in, soak in a little bit, and we're gonna go hose it off. We're gonna hose this off. It's not that difficult. Just make sure you're not like directly spraying it like right into the relay fuse box. Do the best you can to just get the dirt out the way, and then we're gonna use a rack to clean everything else up. All right. Take some clean rags and just start. Yeah, I'm not looking for the best job. I'm just doing a quick clean. Final step is to check and top off all the fluids. In this car you have washer fluid, you got the coolant, which I already checked and it's at a good level. There's no power steering fluid because that's electronic, and brake fluid, as long as it's clean, it shouldn't have to be replaced. Check all your tire pressures. This car should be set at 30 psi, 32.9 is good enough. And we are done. Wow, it looks so much better down here. That's my guide to changing the oil on a 2011 Toyota Highlander. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, put them down below, or if I forgot a step that you like doing. Until next time, peace.